Let's continue with the theme of mining that we started just before the break. As the world races towards a cleaner, greener future, the minerals beneath South Africa's soil are more valuable than ever. But the future of mining isn't just about what we extract, but it's also about how we mine. Ahead of the Mining Indaba 2026, we turn our focus now to innovation, technology and partnerships that are transforming the country's mining sector, improving safety, boosting productivity and positioning the country as a global player in critical minerals which are essential for the just transition. What am I talking about? Well, Zandokazi Nquma-Moyo, General Manager for Strategic Partnerships and Stakeholder Relations at the Technology Innovation Agency, is here to unpack how the country's science and innovation are reshaping mining for the future. Good afternoon to you, Zandokazi. Let me start with what has become pretty much a cliche at the Mining Indaba. Is mining a sunrise or a sunset industry? And I'm sure you'll have heard that question being asked quite a number of times at previous editions. But it's particularly apt this time around, isn't it? Given all these conversations that I foreshadowed in my introduction and the role of innovation and science in it all. So taking that into account, what's your answer? Sunrise or sunset industry?
Good afternoon, Thulasizwe. Of course, as an innovator or as an innovation agency, we see a mining sector as a sunrise, mainly because of the opportunities that it brings for beneficiation and because of the strength of our endowments. Of course, you will remember, Thulasizwe, that we are one of the third largest producers of your some of the critical minerals. Those include your manganese, for instance. So for us, we see an opportunity based on the endowments that we have to beneficiate the industry, not only locally, but globally.
What has changed in the mining space, Zandokazi, such that we are now talking innovation and science and better ways of mining? Is it no longer about, digging a shaft and sending a cage with people down all the way 3 kilometers into the belly of the earth, or doing open cast mining with all of this movement of heavy machinery, etc.? Has anything shifted that suggests that we need to do this in a smarter way?
Of course, you would have to look at the mining industry, just like any other sector. You'd have to approach it from a value chain perspective, right? Understanding that there's the exploration and then you go over to mine closures. And that's how we look at it from the Technology Innovation Agency. Our investment strategy is looking at it from the demand that goes down to the closure of these of mines themselves. So what has also made the mining industry quite a big and pivotal and lucrative industry is the transition into greener ways of doing things, is the transition globally to cleaner energy, your green hydrogen opportunities. That has then even increased the value and the wealth of our minerals. So how we do mining as well, the cost of electricity. You remember that there's some mines that have closed because of the cost of electricity, the quality of the water, and the availability of water supply. And that has changed how and the opportunity for us to bring in new technologies to support that sustainability, how the mining itself happens, what technologies do you use to preserve water, for your electricity to be cheaper, for the operations to be cheaper, and also for you then after you've mined, what values and opportunities are there across the value chain? Do I just open a coal mine and sell the coal to Eskom? Or there's opportunity of platinum group metals that I can mine and create other new industries. So for me, for us as the Technology Innovation Agency, we see mining as a mother to many other industries, including energy and so forth.
So sustainability is key in that conversation, is it not? If I listened to you correctly, talking about the entire value chain from exploration to responsible mine closure.
Yes. Definitely. And you will see that what we have done as the Technology Innovation Agency, even our investment strategies become green. How we support mining houses and mining research and development to bring out those technologies. You'll remember that South Africa has got, last year it launched the critical mineral strategy. And the reason and what it was trying to do, it was creating a roadmap of how we can be able to create value and wealth from the mining sector, besides your blue collar worker, but also creating these new industries. So what we've done from a sustainability perspective is to look at how do you ensure at least there's length, so sustainability from a commercial perspective, that this thing live longer than it should, and also sustainability from a cleaner and environmentally friendly perspective. So from a cleaner, environmentally friendly perspective, TIA has invested in acid mine drainage technologies. How do you ensure that the dump that comes from the mine, it doesn't inhibit the agricultural sector, but it also enables it? How do you reduce the sulfur from the acid, from the waste that comes from? So we've invested in those technologies, which are now deployed in mines like the Tungela mines and so forth. We've also then invested to say, how do you increase the life of a mine? Technologies like Mine Shroud that look at being able to depict challenges or technological issues in a mine even before they cause further damage, therefore increasing the life of the mine. And of course, one of the biggest investment areas we're looking at is clean energy, green hydrogen, which uses, again, platinum group metals. How do we look at a value chain perspective, take that and deploy it into this new clean industry that then, of course, assists with electrification? And of course, we've got your lithium-ion batteries, which are now used for battery storage in renewable energy, and we've invested in those areas. So sustainability from a commercial and environmental friendly perspective is one of the key focus areas.
Interesting. And a constantly present issue in the mining sector has been one about safety of how you carry out these operations. Personally, the whole proposition of sending people down beyond 3 kilometers into the belly of the earth has always had me a bit anxious, because it seems to me you are in a completely different world down there, and the dynamics shift completely. What are the more fascinating and perhaps exciting developments in as far as innovation around safety in mining is concerned?
Also in mining, you hear a lot about the concept of virtual mining, right? Where you are able to first, even before you send the man down or the woman down into the mine, you look at what is possible, what is it that we can get out of there before. And of course, the human spends less time in a mine shaft than normal, looking at virtual mining. The other area that you look at, of course, is smart sensors, to being able to sense and to detect some of the things underground without having to send the men down. And of course, the other one, using isotopes. Remember, isotopes are mainly used, of course, they are birthed from a very critical mineral in South Africa called uranium. Of course, uranium then, of course, will give birth to your isotopes. Isotopes are what we call tracers. They're able to trace even better than a normal microscope or an X-ray what is even underground in a rock. So, of course, deployment of isotopes underground, which are able to track and trace damages and all of other things that which are required to get out your mineral for beneficiation. So those are some of the technological advances in the mining sector that, of course, we're also investing in quite strongly with the private sector.
So the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation has a decadal plan, and in that plan it has mining modernization as one of the priorities. How are you as industry engaging with this plan, and how do you see it fitting in with some of the work that you are doing?
Well, so the decadal plan, of course, talks about modernization, talks about technology adoption in the mining sector. And of course, it marries the concept of research and development for the mining sector, to sustain the mining sector with the STI, Science, Technology and Innovation policies and frameworks. And of course, in terms of modernizing the mining industry, you're also talking about the vehicles themselves. So when we're talking about the mining industry, you're not talking about the ground itself. You're talking about the entire supporting equipment, or rather say industries around it. You've got trucks, for instance, that are used in the mining industry at the moment. They use your diesel, which is called, much more dirtier fuel. And you're looking at that logistic value chain to say, how do you then introduce what is called fuel cells in the mining sector for the vehicles underground and for those on top of the on top of the mine itself. So introducing technologies like such as your hydrogen fuel cells, which are cleaner, which are of course would use less vehicles, and that you're modernizing the movement and the logistical value chain even around the mine itself. And of course, I've already spoken about smart sensors, about me being able to sit here as an executive of a mining house, and I'm able to see everything that's happening in the mine. I don't have to wait for an email or to wait for a phone call if there's a problem in the mine itself. So the decadal plan of the department marries, of course, with what is the critical minerals strategy talks about in terms of making sure that we advance the critical minerals or the mining sector itself.
It all sounds fascinating, Zandokazi, and I can tell your zeal and passion for it all. Wrap it up then for us by locating us on the timeline of where we are between aspirational, some of the technologies and innovations we are talking about being merely aspirational or on paper as a plan of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation versus actual implementation. How far along on that continuum are we in terms of adopting these innovations and technologies and infusing them in the way that we do our mining in our country? Because you and I know the stakes are really high for this sector in this country. It's always been important and it will remain important.
Definitely. So, of course, our timelines are also in tandem with the age of our agency from an investment perspective and bringing technologies to life and to real life situations or real mining setups. So the technology innovation itself was established around 2010. So we are 15 years in the game. And if in that 15 years, we have been investing in technologies that could be deployed in the mine. Hence, today, we talk about the acid mine drainage technology developed that we've funded and invested in together with private sector that has been developed by Mintech, that is now deployed by Thungela Mine. It's operational as we speak around the East Rand to ensure that there is a sustainable and cleaner mining operations or even outcomes to enable other industries. Now, you're talking about another technology which we've invested in the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation. And of course, it links into the uranium concept I was talking about in isotopes. It's called Mining Shroud. It is deployed in Anglo-American as we speak, and it is creating value for Anglo-American. So a lot of the mining technology that we've invested in as South Africa or as the Innovation Agency themselves, some of them, by the way, are bringing returns already, return on investment, to show that they've globally been adopted and are commercial. The last one that I would really like to talk about is Stone 3 Digital, the smart sensor that I was talking about. They're actually generating revenues as you speak. It's deployed and they're returning the investment. So we're not talking about ideas, ideology. We're talking about the value that technology has brought in the mining industry, and it is going to continuously bring. Of course, where there's still a new genesis is the green hydrogen and the renewable energy space and support. Of course, you remember that your silicon is used in solar panels or your photovoltaic modules or your solar panels. And we have silicon, for instance, in Limpopo. We are already assembling those in South Africa, and we're powering our houses with some of the minerals from this country. And we've invested in some of those together with the private sector and industry. So it is not a dream. It is a something that is already being deployed and industrialized.
You know, Zandokazi, you are a victim of your own brilliance. I've kept you much longer than we had planned, simply because the more we spoke, the more came through from this conversation. And of course, I see that you are in demand, your child somewhere there in the background wanting to join in on the conversation. Thank you for your time and your insights this afternoon. I've really enjoyed that conversation. That's Zandokazi Nquma-Moyo, General Manager at Strategic Partnerships and Stakeholder Relations at the Technology Innovation Agency.